Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kings and Dreams. I'm your host, Professor Econ Todd Allen of Infinite Growth TV here on YouTube, sitting behind the Gucci microphone for Kings and Dreams. We have a very good panel for you tonight. We have the Blooming Ebony, Mr. and Mrs. Harris, and Better Biatches, and we'll be having them come on in just a moment. Please, if you would, like and subscribe this channel, Kings and Dreams. We are looking for more followers. Right? You like the content, follow the content, like and subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends. Kings and Dreams is an outstanding channel, gives you quality content. Also, we're going to be talking tonight, ladies and gentlemen. That's the topic, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go ahead and bring in our guests for this evening. We have the Blooming Ebony. We have Mr. and Mrs. Harris. And we have Minka from Better Biatches. Welcome to Kings and Dreams, and thank you all for being here. So let me get started by doing this. Let's put in some mood music. How about that? And let's let me see if I make sure that for the last time I was here, I put some grown folk music in here. Let me see if he still kept it in here. No, it looks like he took it out. I'll have to go back and get it in here. But let me see what this is. See if this is yeah? What you think? This don't work? All right. I know this might be a little too old for you, Ebony. Is this okay? All right. All right. Yeah, I might be the elder statesman here, so I'm going to listen to what I want to listen to. How about that? So let's go ahead and get into it, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to start with you, please, the Blooming Ebony. Please tell us who you are. Tell us about your channel, if you're a content provider on YouTube, and what it's all about.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my channel is called The Blooming Ebony. I go by Chris. I do have a YouTube channel and an Instagram. My goal is to talk about femininity, help women hopefully one day get married. My goal is to be a homemaker and a stay-at-home mom after I have children. I sit on a panel every Tuesday on the CKQ podcast here on YouTube. We talk about relationships and religion and personal growth and all that good stuff. So I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, just the normal stuff, femininity and relationships.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And now let's go to Minka at Better Biatches. Minka, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Tell us about your channel, please.
My channel, I've been kind of figuring that out, and I think it's become more of like the reasonable area where men and women come into discussions about expectations and reasonable expectations. So kind of like being in the middle.
In the middle. Okay. Good place to be. Good place to be. Thank you for that, Minka. And we go to Mr. and Mrs. Harris. Thank you all for being here. Please tell us more about yourselves and your channel.
Thank you for having us. We are the Harrises, better known as Mr. He Said and Mrs. She Said. And we have a channel that focuses on marriage and relationships and coexisting, whether that's in the romantic world or the reality world. Mm-hmm. We have to be able to coexist with one another, to be able to de-escalate situations, to be able to have the tools to express ourselves. And our channel drives to help people see what healthy relationships and healthy communication looks like.
All right. Thank you. And again, thank you all for being here. So, let's go right into it. We're talking about ladies and gentlemen. Now, I would just want to ask a general question to kind of get our mental juices flowing. Are men and women different, or are they pretty much the same? Whoever would like to jump in, this will be a free for all.
Men and women are absolutely different. Science simply would tell us that. We try to make up our own, definitions and categorizing and putting people in blank boxes. And now the lines are getting gray now with defining what a man and a woman is. But yeah, there's absolutely a difference.
Okay. Who's next? Who would like to jump in? Okay, I'll volunteer you. Minka, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree. There's absolutely major differences between men and women. I think both are valuable and both bring special things to the table, but they are inherently different.
Okay. And Chris, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think, Chris?
I agree. I think they're very different. I think, like Mika was saying, they're equal in substance. Like if you have a pound of feathers and a pound of bricks, they weigh the same, but they're very different in substance. They're different, but they both add an equal amount of value to relationships.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with the whole panel. I think they're the same.
Oh,
And
damn.
and here's why I think they're the same, because I think that men and women both want the same things, and that's to self-actualize, right? And so because men and women want to become self-actualized, there may be different ways in which they go about it, but I think that as human beings, we all want similar things. I think that a man and a woman are different from, I think Mrs. Harris said from a scientific perspective. I would agree with that. But I think I would ask the question, and reposition the question, do you think men and women are different from a spiritual or mental?
Yeah, that's a different ball game, man. That was a trick question.
So how would you answer
I would
that?
probably still lean on the different.
Okay.
Only because the way we process things, the way we process emotions, the way we handle situations may be, different routes to get to the same destination. I definitely agree with that. But I think the difference just lies in the nuances, the way we handle adversity, how we, react when things don't go our way, so on and so forth, may be a little different, in my opinion.
Okay. Anybody else would like to expand on that?
I'm still thinking.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I think we're still very different. I think it just boils down to hormones and what it does to our brains and how we react to things. We think oftentimes we can have very similar goals, but I think the reason why we have those goals are different. So even though we are going to the same destination, like Mr. Harris was saying, the reason why we're getting there, the way that we're going to get there is inherently different.
Okay. Is that a product of culture?
No, anatomy.
Anatomy. Okay. Anyone else? Your thoughts on that?
I totally think it's culture.
Okay. Why do you think that?
Well, because I've been saying it for a while that women, we're raised to believe you can do anything, you can be anything. The world is your oyster. Someone will always be there to help you, guide you to all these things, right? So we are created in the vast majority of us society on a whole is saying that to us, right? To men, they are saying you don't deserve anything. Everything in life you have to work hard for. You still may not get it. No one owes you anything. You don't deserve a damn thing. Work your life away. It's just like a complete difference. So I have to disagree with that it would be a biological standpoint. There's a lot of things that men go through that women don't have to go through that make them stronger. Just as women, we say when we go through some shit, wait, I'm not cursing anymore. When we go through some tough stuff, what do we say every time? I did it though. I'm okay now. That made me stronger. That's part of our healing process. Imagine society hitting you all the time on a regular basis. They're a lot stronger than we give them credit for. I'm just saying that there's just based on that alone makes it a very big thing where it's not just a biological standpoint.
Okay. To the idea of it being culture, Mr. and Mrs. Harris, your thought?
I agree to some extent because, naturally we raise our boys and girls differently, don't we? If anybody has a boy child and a girl child, you might have raised them a little bit differently. The rules are a little bit more strict for the girls. Boys are allowed to, fumble around and do, of course, destructive things. So, in some cultures, it is a little different on how they're raised. So, just that aspect is going to have them grow up and be different. The way we communicate is totally different. The way our hormones fluctuate is different. So it's definitely going to create a different dynamic emotionally on managing that type of hormonal fluctuation. To many of us young girls, we're not even taught about it. So we're fully unaware of it. We're taught to not accept it, be ashamed of it, hate it. So it creates a dynamic, but we need to learn to understand that a little more. And it may be a little bit more easy to express and comprehend one another.
I love that you said that right now, because that's another part. We're taught to learn that like that kind of masculinity is not good. It's bad. It's like, and that can like, and I've been saying this for like years. I'm like, damn, I really want like it to be where a guy doesn't ask me if they can kiss me at a good date, or like, things like that. But they and I came to a conclusion where I'm like, damn, I can't even be mad at them. I would be scared too. Like, so we're taking away this ability for a man to essentially be a man and then being upset about it. Like,
right. So, I mean, when we talk about culture, though, is that a Western mindset then? I mean, do we find that this maybe in other communities and other places or are melanated people and non-melanated people, are they the same because it's a Western culture, or is it the same across the globe? What are your thoughts?
Use my Hispanic people as an example. They're still catcalling. They're still doing all those other things that women said, don't do that anymore to the Western men. And the Western men don't really do that anymore. At least for me, I don't experience it as much as when I used to. It was pretty bad. But, I mean, the Hispanic culture is alive and well with like the terms that women like to call men. But they also have a lot of romance. There's also a lot of excitement. There's also a lot of passion. So I think the more that we taken away from men, the more we're yearning for those things that we didn't want from them. But that's again talking about how we were raised. That's a subconscious thing. It's not like women are like, oh, sorry, I'm going on. Let me shut up.
No, you're Chris, your thoughts.
Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, well, we talked about the culture, but let's dig a little bit deeper when we talk about culture. Is it more Westernized culture, or can we even segment it in terms of people, subcultures within the U.S. itself?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's Westernized cultures, and then if we go a step lower than that, I think it's cultures that aren't faith-based. One thing I've noticed is that as we kind of take out a lot of fundamental religions that have clear guidelines as to what women should do, what men should do, our roles in the family, and how that family unit should work, the more problems that we have. And the more that we kind of go down this path of women and men are the same, men can do women's roles, women can do men's roles, and there's going to be no consequences. So I would say there is a subculture. I think it was Westernized with the beginning of like feminism, and then I think we started to separate ourselves completely from fundamental religions.
Okay. So that brings me to this point. Do you believe that we have a mental health issue when it comes to relationships? That we have mental health problems when it comes to relationships? Mr. Harris, I see you shaking your head.
Absolutely. I mean, it's evident, and I don't want to, sound harsh or mean, but it's evident in all other aspects. So how could it not be prevalent in relationships? Speaking to your last question, it's absolutely Westernized, culture, but I would narrow it down to society. We live in a fantasy, very sexy, very lazy driven society. And, all the girls are princesses, in and outside of our homes. And I think that's the difference. Other places, they have a certain level of reality. They let them know you are a princess in this house. You're your daddy's princess, your uncle's princess. But when you go out there, you have to bestow a certain level of excellence because it's competition. You're going to have to make your way out there, but not here. We kind of, your daddy's girl, you're my princess. And they kind of carry that outside, and everyone else has to acquiesce to that same mindset. And if they don't, something's wrong with them. So, here in the West is very unique, and you know, it's kind of, you know, Frankenstein's monster, so to speak. We created this monster, and you know, we have to live with it. But I think it's definitely. I'll digress.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me add,
Please.
definitely, self-absorption should be diagnosed as a thing. Being extremely selfish, egotistical, you know, has a lot to do with a lot of things. So relationships fail because of that. You know, the selfishness is rampant. Me. There's no me in family.
Hmm.
Can you guys do a little mic drop too?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no me, and that's right. That's right. What do you think, Minka?
Oh yeah, everyone's crazy. I don't, I'm in LA. Like I'm like, get me out of here.
Yeah. Chris, would you agree that that the relationships are there's a mental health issue when it comes to relationships?
Yeah, I can agree. And even, but I think
I heard your yeah, and I'm like, we're bonding.
I think there's what Mr. and Mrs. Harris were saying. And then on top of that, there's, you know, with the women nowadays not thinking that they need a relationship, thinking that they don't need a man, we're seeing increase in anxiety and increase in depression, and not only mental illness, but it's actually affecting their bodies too, where now they're developing fibroids at increased rates. They're just having all kinds of issues. So it's not just in the relationships. There are two people that both are having, you know, mental issues like selfishness, egoism, but also when they think that they don't need a relationship, like they can be independent and don't need that interdependence with someone else, that leads to various issues as well.
That's a very interesting point. I'm going to ask this question before we go to the chat. Relative to this topic that we're just talking about in terms of mental health, would then red pill, black pill, or manosphere be a response to poor mental health?
What is black pill?
That's a different side of the manosphere. You've got red pill, black pill, and manosphere. But let's just stick with red pill for this moment.
Okay.
Is the red pill movement or manosphere movement, would that be systemic as a reaction to poor mental health issues as it comes to relationships?
Absolutely. 110%, all of them. And even MGTOW, it's all a response, a survival response of like, oh, that's damn near a death sentence. Let me find this solution. And what and at each of the parts that you've named, at the core foundation of each of them is the foundation of a better self-improvement. Get your finances in order, get your everything in order, get in shape, start taking care of yourself, invest, become financially literate. I mean, the list goes on and on, but it also deals with the harsh realities of what life is, instead of trying this way, trying that way, with like empty promises that were fed through social media and dating courses and all these other things. So I think it's an absolute like response to what has happened mentally, because, and on top of that, like if you take a look at the people that are on here, it's not, most of the people that are in the manosphere are the ones that are a part of the statistics that we have, like women only dating or selecting from a dating pool of like 20 to 30%, or the amount of cases where women get full custody as opposed to men that want custody of their kids. Or there's sorry, again, tangent. There's just like a whole list of things that you can see that these are just reactions, and it's a way of surviving what's happening. You know? Yeah. That's like removing the crazy parts, because there's crazy parts too.
Okay, good point.
It's the foundation.
We have Ms. Polly has joined us. Are you there, Ms. Polly?
Yes, I am.
Welcome to to Kings and Dreams, and welcome to the panel. If you'd be so kind, tell the listeners who you are and how they can follow your channel and what your channel is all about.
Sure. Yes. So I go by Ms. Polly Wright, but most people call me Polly. I am basically an advocate for people who are in poly relationships or the poly lifestyle. I usually talk about just healthy relationships in general, even if they're poly or monogamous, and alternative lifestyles. And I kind of help people kind of talk about non-conditional relationships and conditional relationships and kind of finding their place in this world of relationships. I know that sounds kind of crazy. You know, find your place so that you can find your perfect mate or find that person's for you. And I'm on YouTube. I'm on Ms. Polly Wright on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram. All my platforms, same name. So it's easy really to find me. And I also live the lifestyle myself. So I'm really kind of open to having conversations about relationships and all kinds of relationships, you know, between men and women. It could be children, it could be parents and children, anything, any kind of relationship. So yeah, that's what I kind of do.
All right. Thank you, and welcome to the panel. I
Thank
would
you.
like, at this particular point in time, give a shout out to Andre at Love Crossing Borders for the super chat, 20,000 pesos. Thank you. Thank you so much, brother, for that. Also, would like to, viewers, if you, oh, not that one, let me see. Garden Scientist, welcome to Kings and Dreams. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button. E Rosary, thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here. Also, let me just scroll down. He says, salute, Rosary, salute the scientist, Garden Scientist says that. Peace, family, salute the Kings and Dreams. XL Pro, salute. And German, what up, everybody? Let's see some other comments. I love that from Ebony. Kings and Dreams said that. And he says, my sister Minka and Alex, good morning. Good morning, Alex. Good morning. Okay, he must be in Europe. Must be early in Europe or so. But thank you all for being in the chat. And what I will do is make sure that I pull some of these chats up. Alex, he said, men and women are different, period. No pun. Okay. So he agrees with most of the panel. Let me ask you this, Ms. Polly, because I asked the panel this before you came in. Do you think men and women are different, or do you think they're the same?
Yes, definitely. We are different. Men and women are definitely different physically. I would say to some extent mentally. There's a lot of differences, and then I don't think that there's anything bad or good for either side. It's just that we're different. So being different doesn't mean that you're not as good, or, you know, there's something wrong with you if you're different. You're just different, and, you know, just respect people's differences and then just acknowledge that they're there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask this question, because, you know, we talked about relationships. We talked about mental health. As it relates to that, we talked about how culture plays a role in a lot of the relationships of today.
You asked about dating mental health specifically.
Okay. And I think you have a question for Ebony or Chris.
Yeah. So I do have, so it sounds like you're a little bit like you're more traditional dating. Is that presumptuous or on point?
Traditional dating?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Or like,
I'm not dating anymore. Do you mean like dating literally, or?
Actually still answer the question. Did you, even before your engagement, did you find that you had a higher selection just based on being more kind and pleasant and sweet and traditional rather than other girls that maybe were not as agreeable?
No, I actually felt like it was lower sometimes because I was traditional and I expected more traditional standards from men, like, you know, ask me out on a date, don't ask me if I want to Netflix and chill, those types of things. But the women around me, they were open to, oh, let's just hang out, you know, at 9 p.m. on a Saturday. And I was like, no, take me out on a date at 6, that type of thing. So.
I meant more of us, like you had more people approaching you than other women.
Oh, okay, yes, I'm sorry. That makes sense.
I get what you're saying. They'll be like, Netflix and chill, what are you doing? It's raining. Like, no, wrong tree.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Sorry. Yes, I do think that people found me more approachable than other women.
That was my only question.
Yeah.
I know it's like,
That's an interesting conversation. And as an older guy listening in and being married as well, I would like to get Mr. and Mrs. Harris viewpoint on the, when you were dating, did you just get Netflix and chill, or was there more a traditional approach to it?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was a lot more of a sophisticated time back then. So,
Yeah.
fortunately for us,
25 years ago.
yeah,
So,
we had to acquiesce to a better time. We grew up in New York City, both New Yorkers. So, we met each other with a certain level of quote unquote sophistication that we both thought that we had. Her coming from Queens, I came from Brooklyn,
mhm.
and we just take pride in
That's an LL lyric, ain't it?
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, we always took pride in ourselves and in our dress and in the things we ate. So, with all of that, you definitely have to take pride in the person that you're going to date or you're going to, coexist or become a husband or a wife for. So we always had that consciousness, and then we both come from certain backgrounds. So we wanted to break certain, generational cycles, generational curses,
Mhm.
and we had to remain conscious and knowledgeable in order to do that.
Yeah. Our dating was talking. It was a time where you couldn't just get a hold of somebody. If I wanted to get in touch with him, he needed to be put in the house by the phone, because that's where the access was. We didn't have pagers, at that time. You had to pay phone or whatever the case may be. So if you say, I'm going to call you at 9:00 this day, I probably need to be home, at the phone waiting. So it showed intention. We were intentional. So him making an effort to be where he said he was going to be, when I said I'm going to give you a call, see if we can meet up, that it showed a lot. And the fact that we both were from the city and grew up there, and there was a lot of things that I didn't see. And he was willing to take me out into the city and, and show me these different places in Brooklyn, a place I grew up and I probably never even seen. So, those things were a plus for me to say he's willing to teach me something. He's willing to guide me.
Those sound exactly like the things that Chris was looking for or wanted. Is that correct? Assuming that, Chris?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because I saw the beam in your eye when they were discussing, their dating and all that. I saw the smile and the glow. I saw all of that. Miss Polly, let me ask you this: is that the traditional dating, or how does that apply to your space? Is that still something that is wanted or warranted? What are your thoughts on that? The traditional approach to dating.
Yeah. Even though it's, considered not traditional, the way I date, I still see, even in myself, there are certain things that are traditional that I do keep. And that may be because maybe some of my partners are pretty traditional. So some of the things that they may request, I will obviously just be like, okay, that's something that can be done. But definitely, yeah. Even dating this way, it's a lot more organized. It's a lot more organized, I would say, than just dating monogamous. In current days, especially. So they are like someone asking you to go on a date. There's a lot more preparation even on both sides. Of like, what are we doing? There's, what is going to happen in the future? Do you want to see us in this place? Okay, well, let's work towards that. Like, there's a lot of conversation about where the relationship is actually going to be headed. Expectations are going to be met, and that we're on the same page. So, in a traditional sense, I think that is more traditional because, when you met someone, a while ago, obviously, you would kind of think, okay, well, is this going to be a wife situation? Or are we just talking? You kind of think that out, maybe have a conversation about it. So in that aspect, I think it is. And then you proceed accordingly to whatever the plan is.
Is marriage done and over with in our society?
I hope not. I just got engaged. it
just seems as though, and part of it is I think the manosphere or the conversations around it is just dating, the art of dating, right? And people become dating professionals in a sense, as opposed to even as you said, Miss Polly. Okay, where is it that we're going? And I just question, and I don't know, and this is what I'm asking the panel: is marriage even a topic that is in the top 5 of discussions anymore?
I think it is. I think now with a lot of people just having so much fear, I think a lot of fear came out in more open spaces, especially with all this new ways to communicate with each other. Fears of how being in a contract marriage, and I mean that literally like a contract when you get married, getting married that way, there are so many hits you can take. Financially, and your credit, with children. Some men feel, men or women feel like, at the end of a divorce, emotionally and financially, you are just traumatized. Even for people who aren't married, men who are going into second marriages who you want to marry younger, they're going into this with all these fears of, do I even want to do that again? Do I want to have this contract? And what comes with that? I don't think it's over, because everyone wants to know that someone's going to be committed to them in some way. I think the commitment is there, but the paper part, the contract, the conditionalness of it, that I think is coming into question.
Good point. Anyone else like to respond to that?
Yeah. Traditionally, I think it's dead, dying, close to dead, life support, however you want to word it. But just because marriage means, honor, duty, and responsibility. And I don't think that these people understand that concept. And, for it to be talked about, for it to be debated, for it to have so much pushback, for one to think that you can realistically, get this harmonious union, that again is just something that was more organic in the past. It's just more opportunistic nowadays. Like she said, it comes with so many ramifications. You got, so many things that can happen on the front or back end. So it's just, people are a lot more less willing to lose what they have, and a lot more, technical when it comes to weighing out the benefits versus the risk. So traditionally, I think it's dead. And I only say that from the standpoint of honor, duty, and respect. I think people are always going to get married on pieces of paper for whatever benefit that serves them. But I think that, that foundation that true marriages stand on, I think that's a thing of the past.
Okay. Chris or Minka want to respond?
I mean, I agree with it. It's a kind of like we talked about dating being the mental health issues in dating, that the manosphere is basically like a reaction to that crazy stuff. It's the same thing with marriages. You're seeing a reaction to what men have suffered in going through marriages that are documented to the government. It's in some form of fashion, we adopted the idea of marriage being a part of the relationship itself. And we gave way to that being the important focal point, where, I mean, they're in our marriages. Like, how much more power you want to give? Like, and that's the part where I think it's not just like the men waking up to the ramifications. I think more women understanding this is also looking at the bigger picture of like, why are they in our marriages? This is a private home issue. This isn't a government issue.
Chris, your response.
Yeah, I think it's mostly dying, unfortunately, especially traditional marriage. I think the main reason why it's dying is because people don't embrace responsibility. Like Mr. Harris was saying, people fear the job that it is being a spouse. They think that they're going to get into it, and now they have this lovely title as a wife, and it's going to be roses and sunshine, and is now a happy wife, happy life, and I get everything that they want and they dreamed of. But then it actually ends up being work, and they don't embrace it. They don't see it as being. They don't see that form of servitude as being an honor. You know, they don't see it as building a unit that you can then raise children under that's going to make them stronger. They don't see it as a contribution to future generations. They see it as a loss of their own selfish freedom. And it's very unfortunate. So I think it doesn't become a conversation until it's too late. You know, when she's 44 and she's realizing that, oh, okay, I'm getting all these, you know, these letters in the mail about my I guess life insurance and how I'm going to plan for my death, and realizing I'm going to die alone. So they buy a dog and they hope they can find a man in 2 months that's going to marry them and sweep them off their feet. They go and they freeze their eggs and they pray to what they think is a god.
Wow.
May I say something else, Todd? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. No, go right ahead.
Okay. Well, like I feel really heavy on the topic of conditional and not, you know, an unconditional marriage. And I feel like I'm more on the, you know, I don't want it to be conditional. And I think that kind of freaks a lot of people out, because there's nothing holding anyone in my space. You're here because you want to be here. And I think that is one big thing too. A lot of people who are younger, who you expect to be getting married, wanting to get married, the fact that you have to commit to something and you can't even commit to staying in the school for 4 years. You can't, you know, I mean, it's nothing bad. You don't know what you're going to be doing. And then the thought that you don't know what's going to be coming, I think it just freaks them out. So when you're thinking about conditional marriage, like you just said, Ebony, a lot of women who are getting to the age of 40 the thing they start thinking about is, what can this contract bring me? And I'm not saying all marriage contracts, but I'm saying this particular one we're talking about, if they want to get married on paper so bad and they're 40, a lot of times, like you said, I just don't want to be by myself anymore. I don't want, so what do I have to give to get that? And I'm thinking, okay, well, you know, why don't you just worry about being a good person or being with someone you really care about, instead of trying to figure out how you're going to make sure when you die that your bills are paid? Or you see what I'm saying? It's like, that's kind of a strange conversation for me, is to be like, hey, I want to get married to you to make sure that when I die, that maybe my 3 kids will make sure they have life insurance, because you can do that on your own. So if you're trying to find someone to make sure your bills are covered or something like that, to me, that's a little, I don't know, selfish. It doesn't seem like that's benefit anyone but yourself. And so then I can see why you're having problems finding people who want to actually be there for you when you're sick, when you're tired, when you're 50 and your back hurts and you can't do nothing, but they want to sit there and hold your hand. You're not going to find that in a conditional situation usually.
Why they got to be 50, Ms. Polly?
I'm just saying, listen, my back hurts now and I'm 30. I'm letting you know. And it's what it is. All right.
Self-made says, don't get married through the state. That's interesting, because most marriage licenses, you have to go to the state to be able to get that. And I have a comment to make in that regard in just a moment. Suryeeta says 80% of women initiates all divorces. Is that a true statistic?
Yeah.
Is that verifiable?
It is verifiable.
Okay. I only say that because, you know, sometimes, and I'm not accusing Suryeeta of saying that, but sometimes people just throw stuff out there. They throw a stink bomb in the room and they hide their hands.
No,
I always think it has to trust but verify. Trust but verify.
I've verified it, but it also shows on the study that men are more likely to initiate divorce in their 50s, while women do it in their 30s.
Okay. He says, just not fear. Intellectual soapbox, main marriage is really a gamble. Yeah, what in life isn't? Right?
I'll tell you this, like, honest, after everything I've already learned here, like, I don't even care about the actual paper. I just want like a celebration. That's all I care about.
Okay. It says the laws are against men in marriages and family courts. I'm gonna hold that thought, because I want to come back to that. And Minka, remind me to come back to that, please, because, you know, I'm old and sometimes I forget. I'm older than 50, Ms. Polly. So, you know.
All right.
You good?
Okay. Let's see. Don't oversimplify it. Say it's just fear. Stop the stuff. Okay. We need to change the laws in regard to marriage. No fault divorce ain't no joke. Men are less likely to lose what they have. I'll never get married stateside, no kids, no woman, no cry. Okay, he went reggae on us. You shouldn't be able to marry until after 35 because by then you'll have fully enjoyed your life. That's an interesting comment. Men are suffering. It's getting worse. It's not getting better for men. Who killed chivalry? Who killed marriage? Modern women. That's another point. I'm going to ask a question. How do we define modern women? But that's going to be in a moment. Family courts. There's that. Where is the accountability in this panel? I don't understand the question. Let's see. Anything else? Just looking at the comments here. Okay. Now, Minka, you and I have had a conversation on your show, and you know, as a social scientist, as an economist, I think that all relationships are in commerce, are a form of commerce. That assuming rational human beings and rational thinking, that everything we do is based upon benefits and costs. And if the benefits outweigh the cost, we do the action. If the benefit is equal to the cost, we're indifferent. But if the costs outweigh the benefits, assuming rational behavior, we don't do it.
Right.
So all relationships then are, in my view, are based in commerce. Now, when I say commerce, it doesn't necessarily mean dollars and cents, but it's based upon benefits and costs. And so sometimes when we make choices and decisions early on, if we don't properly vet individuals or we don't properly take the time to, as Mr. and Mrs. Harris did, have more of a traditional feeling out process, looking at benefits and costs, right? And then saying, okay, this is something that I'm willing to be committed to. That is, I believe, is something that is missing in modern day relationships, because we look at a big butt and a smile, or we're looking to see that he's got a fat wallet, and we make decisions based upon emotions and sexual intensity or desire, as opposed to let's just take a look at benefits and costs as it relates to how I can be self-actualized and maybe how I can also feed or feed into this person as well. Your thoughts on that?
That was a whirlwind, wasn't it? I think that it's a lot more practical. I think the way that I simplify that whole thing is people are dating off of instant gratification and what they immediately get, whether it's like looks or whatever, versus dating with a purpose. And I tell people all the time, I date with the purpose of, could I see this person raising my children? That's what when I am dating, I'm assessing that in that person to see if it matches with what I want for my family, for my life.
Okay. But that's not something that you can see instantly in a pair of jeans, right?
No, of course not. And that's the thing. That's the difference between dating with purpose and not, right? Okay. Because when you're not dating with a purpose, you're picking the hottest guy or the hottest girl with the biggest wallet, with the biggest butt, and all that other stuff. That's right. The instant gratification. That's not going to tell me if he's financially literate, which I'm kind of like trying to get better at. But it's not going to tell me if he believes in like spanking or not spanking. I don't want to discipline. I don't want to spank kids.
Okay.
I don't. I do believe in it, but I don't want to do it just because I come from a background where it was done too far. I don't trust. In my DNA, I'll be responsible with that. So I'm like, let me not even go there. I need someone that's going to be the discipliner.
Gotcha.
Things like those are things that I'm looking for, right? You're not going to know that off of a picture or anything. You're going to know that by getting to know the person. And it's like I was asking Ebony earlier, like part of the other side of, we have more of a selection. It's also easier to filter out that selection because it's right away the comments that are made, like, it's rating, what you doing, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, no Netflix, no chill. I'm good. Thank you. And I usually like to say like wrong tree because dogs like to like pee on a tree.
Right. Let me. I'm gonna come to Ebony and Miss Polly regarding that soliloquy that I just made regarding commerce. But I want to go to Mr. and Mrs. Harris to ask you your thoughts on what I said there.
But that does go, I just want to clarify, that does
Uh-huh.
go into commerce, dating with a purpose when you're looking for those things. Those are values that he brings and that I can bring.
Absolutely, and that's part of the benefits conversation there. So, Mr. and Mrs. Harris, you're on mute. Okay.
No, I would absolutely agree that relationships are absolutely transactional now, and like I was alluding to, our relationship, I think, the emphasis is on you. You can run from yourself, but when you turn around, you're gonna be right there. So that level of sophistication is required. Those probing questions, judgment of character. Like if the person puts one over on you, you didn't vet good enough. Like you have to take some level of accountability. So, I'm kind of in the middle there because I think people lack a certain level of sophistication when it comes to dating. They just want to take the easy way out and blame. But when it comes to their belt, comes to the dinners they eat in the restaurants, when it comes to the venues that they frequent, when it comes to the type of shoes that they wear, all of these things are sophisticated. Their car is foreign. It's a certain level of sophistication that's displayed at sometimes. And then when it comes to dating, it's like, oh, he fooled me and she pulled one over on me. But like you said, BBD told us back in the 90s, don't trust a big butt and a smile. But that's how most guys pick,
Right.
So they don't even understand what exotic means. So now all of the girls that don't have big butts or BBLs have now become exotic. So now you guys are just getting run of the mill every day, manufactured additives and preservatives, while the guys who are looking for women with intelligence, for women that with appreciation, with admiration of men, that were raised by men, that understand what men want, that care about what men want. These are the women that are going to get husbands. These are the women that are going to, land men. And if men have to go to other places to find these women, the only thing you can say to them is I hope you find love. And, that's a whole nother show for a whole nother night. But again,
Right.
I just think it's a certain level of sophistication that is lacked amongst all people, men and women, and they would rather blame the opposite sex instead of working on themselves to become a better version of themselves.
And to add, there's no lessons taught. It's not like there are lessons being taught as far as dating. You know what I mean? When we were growing up, at 12, you want to go ask your girlfriend out. You had an uncle that's going to let you know, go to her parents' house, knock on the door, ask if it's okay to take up the street to get a slice of pizza. You might have the big brothers follow you behind, but it was a whole different level of teaching, teaching us to court. And now there's no time. People don't have time and space for that. Answer my text. You didn't look at it fast enough. The drop down didn't come soon enough. So, I'm not instantly gratified, by your response. So I'm going to.
I never thought of that.
It's a different time.
Yeah.
I forgot they used to do that. You're right.
Yeah. Brothers would follow up the street. I didn't know, of course. I found out later. But yeah, that's how it went. It was a little teaching going on. We were learning in elementary school to cooperate with each other because we had plays, we had dances, we had things where we had to be forced to communicate with each other, even if we didn't come from homes like that. But now kids are taught to be silent in class. They can't communicate. They're going to get in trouble. They can't even talk at lunch. There's no recess outside as much. It's just a whole different time. So they expect us to grow up and be 18 and 19, and they learned from social media how to court. They have no clue.
Well, I also had the belt or Hot Wheels tracks. Ebony, thoughts on that, on the idea of commerce?
Yeah, I agree. Everything that's been said has been great. I would say one thing that I would add is that nowadays, I think sometimes people do the benefit cost analysis, but they don't do it in the right time frame. So I think they do it based on what they can get within the next hour, the next day, versus the next 30 years. And I think that affects their ability to make the right decisions. They think, oh, this might be, some fun for tonight, but they don't think this is going to make a good mother or father to my children in 10, 15 years. So I think that's probably one of the other things that's kind of going wrong.
Okay. Ms. Polly, I want to address what you were saying. You were talking about the courts, and you were talking about marriage on paper, and I agree. I think that when you're talking about the state, and the state requires that people buy licenses and all that stuff, because that's a way that they can actually pilfer your estate, that they can actually get their hands into the finances of the household. And I think what has happened in today's system is that the man of the house, or the head of the house, if you will, for lack of a better, I'm a traditionalist. I don't mean any disrespect to anybody that doesn't like the term man of the house, but let's just say the head of the household becomes the government, and the government then runs the entire relationship. And so they've taken the man out of the home, and they've replaced it with the government. And so anytime that there is a breakup, there is going to be a prenuptial agreement, whether it's between the two people that make that agreement before they get married, or the state issues a prenuptial agreement. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely believe that, I think it's changed over time, and I myself don't want to feel like that contract is something that can contradict how I move in my house. And I want to be clear on this. It doesn't mean that, like, okay, if I feel sad for my husband, I'm just going to leave him, or he's not giving me what I want, I can just leave and take all the benefits. What I'm saying is, a lot of times, if you didn't vet correctly, like everyone else saying, you didn't vet correctly, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. What ends up happening is, if you figure that out and you're like, you know what, this isn't the right person for me, this is not right, and I made a mistake. When you realize you made a mistake, even maybe you went to counseling and they said, you guys really are having a tough time. Maybe, instead of sitting here until your kids get out of school, maybe you should separate because it's harder on the children or whatnot. And you can't even really make that decision in a free place, because you're so concerned about everything that's going to hit you if you decide to leave, to maybe make a better life for your children or anything like that, because you can't do it without these big consequences. And there's already enough consequences and actions that happen when you separate from someone. And that's what I like what Mr. Harris was saying. People think there's not, but you're responsible basically for a whole nother person, and you don't even realize it. And what they do in their actions affect you, right? And so when you got into this contract, not only are those, you're getting hit with that afterwards, after you get married, now you're emotionally going through all this. Why didn't this work out? All this. And now you have to let the government come and tell you where your kids may go. And if you're not there enough, you get punished for that. It's like, it's a lot. And on your mental place, so a lot on your mental place. And that's why I think it's very traumatic that the government gets involved in it. So I would opt out of that option. And like she said, like you were saying, better, I would love a ceremony. I don't mind doing all that stuff. That's a lovely thing to show your commitment to someone. I have nothing against that. But the contract is so ridiculous. I can see why people are scared.
Okay.
I can see why. Yeah.
So Pathfinder says, okay, when you said the government, you meant divorce laws, right? Absolutely. We're talking about the divorce laws there. Let me go ahead and introduce Mr. Best in the World 84. If you could unmute your mic, tell us who you are, and tell us about your YouTube page, if you don't mind.
Hey, can you hear me, family?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Mr. Best in the World. I'm from Natural Relationships. That's my YouTube channel. On Intellectual Soapbox. Check me out on YouTube, y'all. I know most of y'all. Good to meet you, Mr. Allen. Shout out to everybody on the panel, Ms. Polly. Better be out there, Blooming Ebony. Try Media. Good to see all y'all. What's going on?
All right, thank you. You're a little bit in the matrix, but we can hear you. If there's any way that you can clear up the sound, that would be even better. But we can hear you. We would just like to hear you more clearly, if that's okay.
It's probably my Bluetooth. Hold on 1 second, okay?
Okay, great. The self-made said the government makes money off all this. People don't get married through the state. Okay. Well, again, if you buy a license, if you buy a fishing license, the state is going to make money off your ability to go fishing. I mean, that's just we live in commerce. That's just where we are. But with that said, let me ask each one of you this: should there be prenuptial agreements before you get married?
Is my sound better now, brother? You hear me?
Yeah, you're better, much better. Thank you.
Okay. If I may build on your question and also the subject matter, if I may. I think that overall, I think prenuptial is a great thing. I think that should definitely be something that we should consider. I think it should be something that they do. I also believe that people should get married after 35 so that they can actually vacation, enjoy a full life, do your thing. I think if you get married in your 20s, you actually are foolish. I would probably even call you a fool. And that's no disrespect to anybody who wants to get married in their 20s, but I think if you do, then you really got to set yourself up for failure, especially without a prenup. That's just my take on it. And I think the reason why people have such a hard time in marriages is because we live in a capitalist society that allows us to do whatever we want. If I don't want a Panasonic TV and I want a Sony TV, I can buy me a Sony TV. If I don't want coffee and I want tea, you know what I mean? I can. Okay, my mic is still going on. God dang it. Is my sound still going out?
Yeah.
Am I good?
A little bit in and out, but okay.
A little bit in and out?
Yes, sir.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Okay. Let me go on to Ebony. Thoughts about the comment I made that should there be, or actually I said there should be a prenup. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I say why not? I think it makes sense to have one. Do I think it should be forced on every, couple to have it? Not necessarily. But I do think that prenuptial agreements can mitigate a lot of the risks. So I don't see a problem with them. I have nothing against them.
Okay. Ms. Polly? Are you there, Ms. Polly?
I am here.
Okay.
And they did.
Okay, you're in the matrix. I'm sorry.
Is my sound better now, family? Can you hear me? Am I clear now?
Yeah, you're a little better. Yes. Minka, go ahead. Your response to that.
Prenups have already been debunked, basically, and there's a loophole of being signed under duress. So at this point, it's something that's no longer working.
Interesting point.
Okay.
Mr. and Mrs. Harris, thoughts on that?
People coming in poverty can't handle prenups.
What you think?
Broke. You coming in broke. Prenup for what? We get the kids. Now if you have assets and things that you acquired before you chose to become a union, and you feel you don't want to share them once the union is finished or it fails, then absolutely. But going into it looking for failure is already failure.
Okay. Interesting viewpoint.
Yeah. I'm sorry, my button wasn't working.
Okay.
I apologize.
No
I
worries.
was here. I did hear you.
Go ahead and respond, please.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to know this because I don't know if Mr. and Mrs. Harris did this. I've been married also before, but I think you should be able to read the contract and someone actually sit down with you and tell you what you're signing when you get married. Read or get over like all the stuff, because you're also saying you'll take on that other person's everything. And when we say everything, it sounds like, oh, whatever. No, and know exactly what you're doing. Stop just saying yes like it's a pop-up on your phone that says, hey, just sign this real quick, push agree. Take a moment to take that home and let someone maybe go over it with you. The courthouse is there, you just sign real quick, usually before you have your wedding. But will someone sit down and actually tell you what all this includes? Just like if you were signing for a car.
So that's actually part of the process of a prenup. When you sign, you're supposed to have an attorney. And if you're a woman and the man says, hey, I want a prenup, then the appropriate thing to do is hire an attorney to represent you, paid for by husband, also vetted through by husband. Like they have to discussion and
Yeah,
agreement. And then
oh yes,
the attorney would explain to you what is in the prenup for you, against you, equal, fair, not fair, whatever. And that's when both attorneys can have a negotiation and settle on a actual.
right. But I'm saying before you guys tell what you want to split up, I ain't talking about, hey, I want this and this and this, and then hand that over to my lawyer. I'm talking about before that, if you're just getting regular married with no prenup, just going into the office, someone should explain to you what that actually means, not what we're going to do with our kids and all that prior to. No one talks about that part, because you can just go in there and get married, and then when you get divorced a year or two later, no one tells you that you're responsible for all the debt he incurred or she incurred while you were married until after it's done.
You mean like a
That's
marriage?
prior to a prenup.
What's entailed in being married?
Yes, correct. I think someone should go over that, especially with younger people, and what that actually entails, and then you will have people maybe then take a moment and be like, I had to look over this for a week. Someone sat and talked to me for an hour or something, and then is this what I really want to do?
I mean, they have actual people that do that. It's in premarital counseling.
Right.
And again, that's the sophistication that we don't show, because we know about all of the things we need to do before we need to go to the airport for a trip. But we don't know that there's premarital counseling and so many other ministries and things that are geared to help you towards being a wife or a husband, whether it's husband or wife school, so on and so forth. But there are so many levels and so many things that are in place if there is a will. And that's why there's a saying that if there's a will, there's a way, because it got to be some will first. And that's the thing that, is in these relationships, that there's no will. Nobody wants to do any work. They rather just blame or say, no one taught me. Somebody should have swooped in to give me the knowledge. Right. But no, like I said, we come from New York City. And when I put on that Ralph Lauren shirt, when I went to the Shark Bar, when I wanted to be the first one to the premiere, when I wanted to find out about cryptocurrency first, these things are sophistication, and I cannot stop when it's time for me to find a woman that I want to spend the rest of my life with. I got to actually go even harder because this is the woman I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. This is going to be the mother of my children. So these things are very important. So if I'm going to, again, say I'm driving a foreign car and I'm wearing a foreign belt, and all of these things that are so upper echelon, and the people that I hang with, and the quality of the hair that I buy, and all of these things are so sophisticated. But yet, when it comes to your private parts, who you are making a human being with that you need to raise to be a productive citizen in society, these things are laissez-faire. And it's so, perplexing to me, a thinker, an intellectual, to say, goodness gracious, y'all take so much pride in yourselves in some areas. Why not display this in all areas? Because for every piece of knowledge we get, it's a whole bunch we don't have. So once you start to understand that, our existence is very small, we are here for a reason. And when you start to figure out your purpose and figure out your reason and know that being kind to people gets better results than other things, then you start to, live life a different way. I don't know if it comes with age, if it comes with maturity, or whatever the case may be. But a lot of these people that sit in these boxes and claim to be so sophisticated, I just don't see it equaling up.
Right.
Well, I mean, you're saying that, I understand, but we know that most people who are getting married, who are thoughts of marriage, even for maybe not current, but they were very, very young. Women have been dreaming to get married since they were 10. So yeah, they're not going to be emotionally intelligent enough to say that sometimes. And let's just be honest. A lot of young people are just saying, I just love him, I don't care. And not really taking on the other parts of the responsibility they're taking on, because they're just fogged by the delusion that there's nothing but this love that's going to keep us together. And sometimes they're making the wrong choices, not vetting. But we learn that as we get older. You're not learning that when you're 20. And I agree with you here. That's why I said I really do agree with you that they're not taking the time and learning these things. And our parents haven't shown us these things. But you don't hear a lot of times that especially in poverty areas, where parents show their children how to go on dates. what does it look like when you're really serious with a woman? No one's really taking the time to do that in large quantities.
Right.
So these are people just being thrown out on the street to start dating. And the first thing they do is, well, my mom is married, or I want to be married, or maybe I don't. And they're just jumping in with no real information. And so, like you said, even if you're not Christian, you can't go to a church, you don't want to go to a church, or you're not in the church. Well, then there should be, I think, if the government's making us have the contract, go over it then. Make that part of the process. Go over it.
No, I absolutely agree with that.
I think it starts with us, holding our elders accountable. Like at this point, you're 40 years old and you haven't got married, not to be blaming them, but to let them know, like, you didn't teach me. You gave me a lot of misinformation. You gave me a lot of your jaded fear and, everything else. It's a lot of stuff that's been passed down from our elders. Like these women who were in marriages never, promoted it. They didn't have pride in it. Even if the man took care of them, they weren't saying, that's a good man, go out and find him. They're like, nah, go get you an education. You don't want this life. But even if you grew up in it, you're like, yeah, nah, I don't want that. Mommy gave too much because mommy never told the children how important daddy was, what daddy was doing. You know what I mean? It always seemed like it was something under the cover or daddy's this monster. And a lot of us didn't have that. They were working hard and they were tired and they had to take care of family, but nobody was promoting what daddy was doing. We remember mama in the kitchen all the time, cooking rice and beans and whatever the case may be. But there's no love. There's no teaching to nurture these men and give in order to get what you want. You can't just go out into this world as women thinking we can just get whatever we want. I just deserve it because I'm a woman and I can give birth. And, it's just the most magical thing in the world. No, men give us those seeds. We have to cultivate them. And if we don't feed our bodies correctly, it's going to be kind of hard. So again, our elders, the women in our lives, they didn't tell us how to clean our vaginas. They didn't teach us how to date. They didn't teach us what men, the value in them. They told us the opposite. So now we're showing the effect of it 30 years later. And then TV didn't help. So, this is where we are.
Right.
I think
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think the problem is that people just have too many freedoms. You know what I'm saying? We live in a capitalist society where we have freedom and we are free to do whatever we want. So that's going to bleed into our relationships.
I want to address that. I want to address that because you've said that twice. We talk about capitalism. I want to address that. I'm not disagreeing with you. I just want to make a different point. Renee said, I believe prenups devalue the head of the household. Okay, I want to talk about this concept of prenups. When my wife and I got married, during the marriage ceremony, we signed the marriage contract. It's called a ketubah. And we outlined what my responsibilities were, what her responsibilities were, and that was part of the vows that we had written. It's a contract. That contract was done prior to our wedding. It was done at our wedding. So I understand that some people talk about the prenup and they think of it in terms of, if it fails, then this is what happens. But my value system says that this protects not only me, but it protects my spouse, because this is what we've agreed to do prior to our wedding. So I just want to say, looking at prenups differently in terms of how both parties can be protected and both parties agree, because everything is based on contracts. Now, what Mr. Best in the World was saying, he was saying that he believes that people shouldn't get married till they're 35 or more. Well, how does that work out for women and their reproductive system? Right? We also.
I had a question to that, Todd.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm apologetic. When you said when you and that's why I just want this to be clear, so Mike can rebuttal. But that's why I said in that contract, when you said you signed to make sure you're protected. So let's say you signed it and you said, well, I'm going to be able to provide a home for my family, blah blah. Well, what happens if one day you get in a car accident and you no longer can provide a home for your family? Are you failing and now you need to be divorced?
No, it's called you provide with insurance policy. I mean, if to say that we're getting married just simply based on the contract and not based upon how we feel about one another, I'm not suggesting that. What I'm simply saying is that prior to the marriage, we put everything on the table and we agree to what our individual responsibilities are. Now, anything can happen. I mean, I can get hit by a bus tomorrow, God forbid, right? And, you know, that can also change a lot. For my mindset, I don't know if I would want to necessarily burden her with having to take care of an invalid. But
Right.
I'm sorry.
No. I was saying, right, but what if your roles want to change? What if you start getting married at 19 and now you're 40 and now you've decided, hey, listen, I'd like to do something else, maybe stay at home and do something else with the children. I really want to invest in our kids and blah, blah, blah. I want to start my own business. Then you once again are violating the contract because life changes.
Well, I mean, it's also called, responsibilities as well. I mean, getting married is an adult decision. It's
Right.
got to be made by adults. And you could be an adult at 19. Hell, we're sending young 19 Marines over there to die in foreign lands at 19. To say that they're not adult and can't make adult decisions, that's a slap in their face. I mean, I apologize for getting emotional regarding that, but there are a lot of 19-year-olds who are in harm's way protecting our supposed freedoms, and we can't say that they're not an adult at 19.
Wait, yeah. No. I just said younger and your life changes, and as life goes on, as you get older and you get knowledge, you may want things to change. And that. What I'm saying is the prenup hold you accountable, which is wonderful. But my thing is things change, and if you're writing down everything you said you're going to do, and one person says, "Hey, I've changed as a person," the other one's like, "Well, I don't want you to change as a person," then you're failing.
That's called communication, though. But again, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I didn't call it a prenup. I called it a marriage contract. I called it a
prenups have to
Very
be
true.
done every 5 years. So if that were to happen, you could make an annulment within those 5 years and change it for the next 5 years.
Another term would be a trust, that you could set up a family trust for three individuals, for three trusts. One for the man, one for the woman, and then there could be a family trust as well. But also, the last thing I want to do is I want to talk to Mr. Best in the World 84. He keeps saying, you keep using the term capitalism. As an economist, I can't let that go. I apologize. I don't mean any disrespect. Capitalism as a term simply means change. That when I'm looking at a tree, the desk is the capital in the tree. I can change the form of that tree to be useful and create a desk. So capitalism in and of itself simply means change. The society in which we live in is a world of commerce, and we live in what's called a free market. So you are correct that we can decide what we're going to buy, what we're going to sell, and we do have a lot of freedoms. But I'm not quite agreeing with the idea that because we have the ability to make choices, that we should be more communist and be limited in our choices, because then that limits not only the choices that we have for our lives, but it can also limit the choices that we have for our significant others. Your response, Chris, I see you clapping.
I'm an accountant, so I was hoping. I was like, oh no.
Okay.
So I agree.
Okay, Mr. Best in the World, please respond.
Well, the reason for me saying that is the fact that we're able to have freedoms in every other space and place in our life. So if we're able to have ultimate freedom, ultimate choice in every space and place in our life, we can determine where we move, we can determine where we eat, we can determine where we go, and there's no penalties for this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I can decide whatever career I want to do, I can decide where I want to live, but now when it comes to relationships, now I'm given all these different rules. And people are not used to that. People are just used to doing whatever they want. Mm-hmm. So we are essentially telling people they can do whatever they want all the time. And now they get a relationship, and now they got to have all these different rules and settings and all that. People don't want to abide to that. They still want to continue to do whatever they want because we have programmed them and conditioned them to do whatever they want. So unless we're going to start having, we want to have regular traditional marriage, then we need to start even having some more different kind of rules or concepts or anything like that. And even also, as far as the way we do marriage or the concept of marriage, you know, it's different because everybody believes in things differently, whether it comes to religion, whether it comes to moral ethics and code. We all have different things that we believe and that we stand on. So we're trying to follow this concept of relationship that's based on Judeo-Christian values, but not all of us are even Judeo-Christian. And then even if we are, which part of Christianity are we? You know what I mean? Are we Baptist? Are we Protestant? Are we Catholic? And then some of us don't believe in Christian values at all. Some of us believe in Islam, like the Harris Media. You know what I'm saying? Like some of us are Buddhists. Like what concept of relationships do we really believe in, and what do we stand on? You know what I mean? So that's why there's so much confusion, because there's so many different options and there's so many different ideals and principles of what we believe in. So when you try to box things up, of course, I can see why somebody like Miss Polly will want to kind of have her own option, because you can do that in everything else. So why would I now chain myself up in a relationship, not knowing what's going to happen, unless and then I also can sign a prenup, but who wants to go through the whole ordeal of signing a prenup and then it possibly going wrong and then everything falling apart? Nobody wants to go through that. So that's just my stance. Now, the reason why I say after 35 is because I believe that if men and women start to really take their own health seriously, their lifestyle seriously, start to work out, eat the right foods, put themselves around the right people, do the right things, their life will be completely better. Will be able to have, children in those ages, and everybody be perfectly fine. I'm not saying it'll work out for everybody, but from what I'm saying, for the most part, I think if we start taking care of ourselves, as far as health-wise, those things won't be a concern. The reason why they're concerned is because we don't take care of ourselves. We don't eat the right things. We don't do daily exercise. We don't drink no water. We don't eat no fruits and veggies, and we're just out here doing whatever we want. And so now, by the time we're over 25 or 26, 27, yeah, a woman's womb is about to be gone because she's been eating fast food her whole life. And she ain't never take care of herself. She don't even drink water on a regular. So that's my stance on it.
I appreciate that. Let me ask this question for the panel, for those of you who may know. We say Judeo-Christian values and as an exclusion of the values of marriage and relationships for other religions. But in this context, aren't the values of other religions as it relates to marriage, aren't they really all the same? Mr. and Mrs. Harris, your response.
Absolutely. And the correlation that I see with the capitalism in regards to Western society and relationships is, again, like I alluded to earlier, opportunistic. People are so, if it's not a rocket ship just going up, the minute it goes something other than up, I'm done. And that's the opportunist in them. They don't want the roller coaster, because nobody gets off a roller coaster early. I don't care how rich you are. Once the gates close, you're on this ride. And that's what marriage is. You're on this ride through the ups and the downs. And I get what Miss Polly is saying, that people do change. Me and the missus, we've been together 25 years. But I think that's what, people call reinvention. We have to, again, be conscious about love, even if it's in the shirts that we wear. Dwayne and Whitley. Like, this is personal to me. This inspires me. And it lets me know that real love exists, even if it's real love in fake TV. And that's what you got to do, Ms. Polly. You got to make it real for yourself. Sometimes the knowledge, the well is not right there. Sometimes you got to travel a few miles to get that fresh water. But I'm willing, you know what I mean? And I think that's the difference in these younger people, the modern people. They're not willing to walk to the well to get some water. They want the well to come to their house, knock on the door, see if they're busy, bring the water upstairs. Like, it's so many components. And it's like, no, that's not how the world works. But the world is wrong. And like I said, they would rather blame than to take that accountability on themselves, look inward and say, you know what, maybe I could have did something better. Maybe I need to improve for the next person, so that will be that, long lasting relationship that I want. All's fair in love and war. So for us to think that there's guarantees that comes with the next person, and the next person has to be the right one, and it's none of that. You got to put yourself out there and get yourself to work and show your work like you did in school, and maybe you'll pass a test.
I mean, and the basics are true. The duty, honor, and responsibility, and growing together. As you're growing and learning, and being intentional in that has to be upfront, because kids come into play, jobs come into play, everything gets repetitive and boring, and you got to be able to sit still and be okay with that. And we are so, we need so much instant gratification, and like she said, we change and we want different things, but we're not expressing it to our partner, we're not showing it in our movements, we're just thinking about it, so you got to put somebody else on board. So when I'm going through changes, and I need to make them aware of that, So he knows that it may be some dynamics that might be stewing, you know. So be a little alert, pay a little bit more of attention, because this is the partner. This is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to pay attention to one another, you know, and our wants and desires, especially if we don't are not able to express it at the time. It's just, that's how relationships are supposed to be, and people are not willing to do that. You're supposed to pay attention to me. You're supposed to do everything I expect you to do, you know, but when you expect something, or you may even demand something, I'm resistant or reluctant or asking what you didn't do something for me. You know, it's just, it's too much of a tit for tat, like a sibling type of rivalry.
Yeah.
You know, and people need to get on a husband and wife level instead of brother sister level.
I'm going to ask each one of you. I'm just going to ask a question by just basically giving a word, and I want you to kind of define it, or to, you know, give me your thoughts or impressions of that. Okay. And Minka, I'm going to start with you because you've been a little bit quiet, and I'm a little bit worried about you right now. I think that's, you know. Okay. So, Minka. 50-50.
100-100.
Okay. Erica, 50-50. I'm sorry, Chris, 50-50.
I like Minka's answer.
Okay. Miss Polly, same question.
50-50. Yeah, I think Minka kind of said, like, you know, really, you have to give it all. You can't give anyone half or part. That doesn't make sense.
Gotcha. Mr. Best in the World, 50-50.
I think you got to give I think both people should come and give it 100-100. So you got to give your all.
Okay.
And then giving your all ain't gonna work. That's anything in life.
Gotcha. This goes to Mr. and Mrs. Harris. Love.
Oh, in abundance.
Abundance, baby.
You guys have been together a long time, because y'all saying the same words. I mean, you know, or she whispering in your ear before.
We have been together a long time, but love in abundance is what we build on, because love is not something that any of us have in a plethora of. So you have to fill your own cup in order for it to spill over into her cup. If I wasn't good, nobody else is good. And again, you know, I'm a New Yorker. I was here first, before her, before the kids, before the cat, before the house, before the cars. It was me walking down those New York streets saying, when I cultivate a family, it's going to be ... And they weren't here. So I always have to have that loyalty to myself, that I'm the leader. I'm the quarterback. When we lose, I take the blame. So when we win, I take the cheer. Nobody's going to, you know, pull over on the side of the road and ask us, was it 50-50 in your relationship? Who should we be blaming for y'all being kicked out in the street? No, they're going to blame me. So I am the motherfucking leader of this house. I'm sorry for cursing. And that's what it is. We not 50-50. We not partners. We are a husband and we are a wife. And we know this. And again, the consciousness of that. And if you walking around saying anything other, you know, we equally yoked and we are, you know, a power couple, you know, all of those things you can self-proclamate all you want. But until somebody else solidifies it, it's just self-proclamation. So again, we just walk with this certain level of consciousness to know that we fell in love with each other. And usually when we argue, it's about the kids. So it's not us. It's always another dynamic. And I think that's what people need to see. Remember that you guys love each other. Remember what you guys built. Be proud of what you guys built together. And then build off of that. Don't worry about what you don't have, what everybody else is doing, and so on and so forth. And I think that's just the difference between a mature thinker and somebody that's not.
Thank you. Mrs. Harris?
Oh, man. Grew up very poor. Like you said, we grew up in New York. I grew up very, very poor. So love was something we had up front. So it was something I knew I needed and I wanted. You know, so being purposeful, I want to have children, and I want somebody to have them with. You know what I mean? So just growing up in a society with a lot of single parent homes, you know, for sure, I'm moving purposely. So when my love was, first sight, and he agreed to, befriend me, and then it continued, and then he asked me to be his wife, I was willing to jump on board because he already showed me the good man he was before he met me. So if anything, I'm just going to try to attempt to make him a better man. Okay. So, and it was just that purpose, because I want us both to be better for our children, and I want to live in that. That's something I have to be responsible for. So I have to be responsible for my behavior, my motives, my actions, my tone, my attitude with him, and making him aware when I'm just not right, and making him know that it's not his fault, but he can help me in this way or that way. So it's on us to be a little bit more vocal with our needs, because again, we walk around with this, I don't need a man, I don't need this, but then when we are in need, we don't speak up. We speak up in more anger and frustration and annoyance, like you did it, versus coming to you beforehand and saying, I may need some help. I need a little help with the kids. I may need you to help do this laundry, cook meal on Wednesday, whatever the case may be. So be proactive and be intentional, and if you choose to marry a man, you're choosing to be in his mission. So hopefully you are paying attention to how he's moving, and you're on that purpose too. Because for you to just turn around 5 years later and say, oh, I want something different, it's kind of unfair.
Yeah.
It's kind of unfair. So, get on the same page and be intentional.
Ms. Polly, same question. Love.
Yes. I agree with that. I do like what you guys are saying though. Being intentional, whatever it is, be intentional about your movements. I think that was really good for you to say, Ms. Harris, because I think a lot of people aren't intentional with what they're doing, regardless if it's serious or not serious. Be intentful with what you do. It just makes so much sense. And being in a relationship is a lot more than just seeing that someone looks good or they have some money, or it's short term things that don't last. And so when you say love, to me, that's why I feel like it should be unconditional, or you should try to love someone unconditional, because those things change. And I want to love who you are to the core, and my only purpose here is to make you greater. So when you look for a partner, you should find someone who you deem already great, and your only purpose really is to make them greater and for them to do the same for you. And be able to be aware of what you can give someone, what they can give you, and what you actually want, because all three of those could be different. And if you guys aren't on the same page, there's going to be some problems. And I think if people take that time to do that, they can really find someone they can love, even if it's more than one person, and you can dedicate yourself to them and love them.
I'm going to go to Ebony. Chris, the word for you is happiness.
Temporary. It comes and goes, and it's okay. It's okay. It's no one's job to make you happy, and it's okay to sometimes not be happy. Either A, you fix it, or that's it. There's no B. Just figure out what the problem is and try to make it better. But it's no one's job to make you happy, and there are going to be times when you're not happy.
Okay.
Go from there.
Minka, same word, happiness.
I liked Ebony's answer. Pretty spot on. It's like a little cloud passes.
Okay. We're going to keep it right here with you then. Your next word is loneliness.
Sour? I don't know. First word that came to mind. I mean, it's loneliness is when it's like a feeling. It doesn't have to be with actually being alone, right? You could be with people and still feel loneliness. I feel like lost would be a good definition of being lonely. Why do you feel lonely?
That's your answer. You're going to stick to it?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right. Mr. and Mrs. Harris, loneliness.
Man, something I don't want to live in continuously.
Yeah. My word is unagreeable. If you lonely, you probably unagreeable.
I like that. I like that. Ms. Polly, your word, well, group of words. My best partner, blank.
God. Messing up, babe. You said my
it's
best
not fair.
partner?
You say
No,
it's not fair. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
Is your word is my best partner, blank.
Yeah, it's really not a good word for me.
All right. You want me to table that word and go somewhere and come back to another word for
You
you?
said my best partner?
Yeah, your best partner, blank. How would you define your best partner?
Oh, well, I guess because there's more than one, right? It doesn't work out.
No.
I would say a best partner is I don't want to say consistent. I want to say always there. Always
Okay.
there.
Okay. Chris, my best partner.
That's a hard one. I would say this is really bad, but all I can think of is a dog because my husband won't be my partner. He's my husband. So if I need someone by my side, it will be a dog.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, I would say my best partner is reliable.
Okay. I'm not even going to ask Mr. and Mrs. Harris because they're gonna have the same answer for one another. So anyway, I'm going to go to Minka. Your word is adult.
Responsible.
Okay. Good. Let me hit some of the chats here. We got the Art of Will. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you very, very, very much. And Pathfinder, best partner is always there. Yes. Very good. Very good. So always there, adult. And let's go to Mr. and Mrs. Harris. The word is adult.
Accountable. Adults are accountable for their actions and the consequences that come with their actions.
Okay. And I'm assuming that Mrs. Harris agrees with that.
I would say it, just for the word adult, most people act like it, but they don't move like it.
Okay, I'll accept that. So we have, we're at an hour and 33 minutes, and I want to end this with this question, and then I'm going to give each one of you a chance to go ahead and give your final thoughts on what we've talked about. And Mr. Kings and Dreams is in the house. I thought he was. I thought I added him. There he is. So I want each one of you panelists to answer this particular question. Okay. And it's really two types of questions. The one is why someone should choose you, or why did your partner choose you? Why should someone choose you, or why did your partner choose you? Who would like to start? Everybody's got to answer it. So I mean, who wants to be the first, the canary down the mine?
I got it. I can do it. I used to.
Okay. That's way to step up there, Mr. Harris. That's what I'm talking about.
I was trying out.
Because I am willing to compromise and consider another person. And in my opinion, I think consideration is love. I think if you are scared of roller coasters, you have a phobia of roller coasters, you will not get on a roller coaster. But that person, that special person, say, get on this roller coaster with me. If you think about it, you may end in the no. But if you go, you know what, I'm a pass. I think that consideration, just, thinking about doing something you would never do and putting somebody in your world and giving them that consideration, I think that's love. You move different, you think different, you treat people different. And, I don't want to be too long. I'm just going to say this real quick. I call cap on most modern people, men and women, because what's your reward? What do you deem as your reward? We go through our lives a certain way, a lot from dysfunctional families, from unfavorable upbringings, and we get degrees, we get children, we get things, but we still unagreeable. Like that word you brung up, we're still a little bit sour. And you know, if that degree was so lovely to you, if that job was so lovely to you, you would be a lot more pleasant. You would treat people a little better. And I think that's what love does. When people are truly in love, they move different. You see a certain light or a certain glow, whatever you want to call it. But it's a thing. And I think it's important. I think we all can inspire to get it. And I think we all do better when we have it. Sorry for being so long-winded.
Appreciate that.
So,
Ms.
yeah, I
Harris.
agree with that. His compromising ability was definitely top of the list. For me, I think he chose me as his wife because of my genuine kindness and the willingness to be taught.
Okay.
So those two things, the way I loved my family. So he knew if we had our own family, I was definitely going to love them in abundance, you know. So I think that's why he chose me. Yeah.
Okay. Minka, same question. Why someone should choose you, or why did your partner choose you?
Damn, that was a nice breath of fresh air that you guys brought.
Powerful couple.
Yeah. Really, like, no one has chosen me, so why someone should choose me? Agreeable.
Now, let me back up just a second. Now, you have friends and people that love you.
Of course.
So don't say that nobody chose you. I'm not
No,
accepting.
in regards to what we're talking about, don't get sensitive on me.
Yeah, don't have me get Colombian hands going that way.
No, not in like a nobody's chosen me.
Right.
No, it's a matter of fact. It's based on the discussion that we're having.
Okay. All right.
Jesus Christ. Sorry. I mean, I'm agreeable. I believe in traditional values. I would like to find someone that makes me feel safe and secure the same way that I would hope to make them feel, meaning like I'm more of a how are you treating me versus what you're doing the rest of the world. And I think that a big portion of what guys look for is like, are you still going to be there if I mess up?
Okay. All right. Chris, why did your partner choose you? Now here's a question. Did he get on one knee when he proposed?
No, we were both sitting down.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
He chose me because he says he can trust me. I'm also willing to learn. I go by the idea that if you're not growing, you're dying. And so I'm always willing to look in the mirror, even when it's difficult. I'm also traditional. I think I'm fairly kind as well. So I would say that's probably why.
Okay. Very good. And Ms. Polly, why someone should choose you, or why did your partner choose you?
Sure. Well, since I don't really like to talk for them very much, I like them to talk for themselves, but why someone should choose me, I would say, is because in a relationship with me, I feel like I'm a person that's going to dedicate myself to, whatever situation that we've agreed upon. And if you're a long-term partner, of course, that's something that I really value, is making sure that you have all the things that you not necessarily want, but the things that you need. And that would even include if I can see that you may need me not to be somewhere with you so you can be stronger and build yourself up, then I would do that, because I see what it would really bring to us to be better. So I'm really about building a strong family and a relationship with all my partners, and then making sure that we are successful at being together in an emotional place so that we can enjoy each other for as long as God lets us. So I think that's why someone should choose me to be their partner. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Kings and Dreams came on, and I want to acknowledge him. Kings, I really appreciate you allowing me to host this wonderful, wonderful panel. Is there anything that you would like to add to the discussion?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Well, first of all, I just want to say shout out to you, Todd. You held it down, man.
Appreciate that.
You crushed it. Everyone that is on here, I thank you all for being here. Great conversation, and I think that we can all learn a lot from each other. So I'm just here watching, but I thank you all.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, man. But when I fully come back, I'm gonna be scorching earth.
We understand. I just want to say this. I really appreciate the transparency and the your ability, your willingness to share. I know that this was not always easy. Some of the conversations are not always easy, especially when we're talking about relationships, especially we're talking about modern day relationships. And I really appreciate your honesty and your transparency. What I'd like to do at this particular point in time is I would just like for each one of you to just give any final words that you'd like to say before we go ahead and end this broadcast. And so what I'd like to do is start with Miss Polly. Miss Polly, you have the floor.
Okay. Yeah.
Really quick, Miss Polly, before you speak, I would like for us to all exchange information and do that in the back chat.
Yeah.
As far as getting Instagrams and things like that.
I gotta check security clearances because I don't want my name and address in somebody's parking
lot. No, I was talking about like Instagrams and like YouTube and stuff like that. No, not like your address.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We can do that.
Yeah. Everybody in the chat, Todd is trolling me a little bit. I already know his address anyway, so it's all right. It's all good. Anyway, man, I'm gonna drop off, but thank you all so much. Excellent conversation. Excellent conversation. You all killed it.
Ms. Polly, you have the floor.
Oh yes. Okay. So from the conversation, I took in quite a bit of good information, but